In this tutorial, I will show you how to create symbols using the block and the right block commands. First, using a few circles, I'm going to draw a quick tree symbol. This tree is pretty large, so I'm going to draw a circle with a diameter using the diameter option down here of 60 feet. I was working at a very large scale, so this looks like it was very tiny. But let's check my scale. Check my this measurement. It looks like that's a 60-foot diameter tree, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to create a very quick tree symbol just by adding a little bit to the canopy and giving it a trunk. This basic drawing of a tree is going to be used in a drawing where I need to draw hundreds of trees, hundreds of these symbols. So it would be impractical to leave this as separate circles. Instead, I want to make one block that I can then use multiple times as needed, sort of like using a rubber stamp. That's what the block command does. Enter the block command with the hotkey B, enter. Give your block a name. I'm going to call it tree symbol 1. Choose a base point. This is the point from which your block will be given a grip point. I'm going to choose the center of the trunk. And then choose the objects that are going to make form part of this block. Using this button, select objects. Make sure you grab all of the objects that are going to be part of that block. Hit enter to return to this window. You can see the 3 objects were selected. And then finally, if you want to give your block a description, you can type it in this box, but you don't have to do that. Hit OK, and your drawing has now been converted from 3 separate circles into one block. If you select it, you can see it has a grid point that you can use to move it around. Likewise, you can copy it using the copy command and create many copies of it, each one of which will act as one individual object instead of 3 separate circles. You can resize some of these using the scale command. You can change the size of them if you need, for example, trees of different size. You can create those. You can also create maybe a much larger one in the same way using the scale command. So there are a few tree symbols. Each one of these is one block, is one instance of the same block, which means if I modify any of these instances by double clicking, it will open the edit block definition window. Choose the block you want to edit. In this case, it's tree symbol number 1. Hit OK. This will open this block editor where you can make any changes to your block. For example, let's add multiple trunks. Once you're happy with your changes, make sure to save them and close the block editor. And you will see that that change has applied to every single instance of that block. That's one way of creating a block from a drawing that you do from scratch in Autocad. Likewise, you can insert an image. Let's say, for example, that I want to trace over a sketch of a tree. I sketch, or here's some shrubs. I sketched these by hand on a piece of paper. I scanned it, and now I'm bringing in that image into Autocad. There are my sketched shrubs, or these could be ornamental grasses, for example. Using a polyline tool, sorry, not a polyline, individual lines. And it's going to be difficult to see this with the white background, so I'm going to draw in red color. I'm going to trace over my sketch. I'm hitting enter twice to repeat the previous command. So once to exit the line command, and then a second enter to repeat the previous command, which is the line command. And that makes drawing these a little bit faster. So I do a line, double enter, and then another line. Once you finish tracing your drawing, you can turn off the image or move it off to the side, or delete it altogether. And your tracing will be a bunch of separate objects, in this case separate lines. To create the block, we're going to go back to the block command. But in this case, I'm going to note that the block command will create blocks that are saved within your drawing file. They are not saved as separate files that you can use in other drawings. These only exist within this file called drawing1. If I want to save this block or any of these as a separate file that I can add to my block library, the command you want to use is write block, which you can access with the hotkey W. Write block is very similar to block. It will let you select, your source will be some objects. You will choose a base point. I'm going to give the center of this clump of grasses. Choose your objects. So make sure you grab all of the objects that form part of this drawing. Hit enter to confirm. It has detected 16 lines right here. And give your block a name. So this will be called ornamental grass number 1. When you hit OK, before you hit OK, look at these options here. You have the option to retain it in your drawing as separate files, to keep it in your drawing but convert it to a block, or to delete it from this drawing and only save it as a separate file. I'm going to convert it to a block so it doesn't go anywhere. Hit OK. So it's right here. You can see that it kept that red color that I was using to trace this. I'm going to fix that in a moment. But the 16 separate lines are now one single object. I'm going to double click to go into the block editor, choose the correct block here, and in this block editor, I'm going to go back in the home menu and change that red color back to white by layer, what it was supposed to be. Close the block editor. It's going to ask me whether I want to save it. Yes, I do want to save the changes. And now this is in the same layer and the same color as my trees. So I can make this the right scale. That's the scale of my grasses. And I can copy this multiple times wherever I need it. Remember that you can always edit your blocks by double-clicking, going into the block editor, and making any changes you need to. Let's say that I want to maybe add a little bit more detail in this, or if I wanted to add a few lines that are a different line weight to the rest, I can also add lines, you know, in a different color. Once you have your pen settings, you can do that. So save and close, and that will change all the instances of your blocks. You can do that with any kind of vegetation. You can bring in pictures of people, you know, that you have taken or that you want to turn into a block. You can change, you can create blocks of vehicles or anything you have that you have sketched or photographed. I hope this helps.